Hello everyone, first video in a while. I've actually got my car back so I can get out and about and do some videos. It's a mild Thursday afternoon and I'm at Mere Knolls Cemetery over the north side of Sunderland. It's in Seaburn, opened 1856. I'm in the old section, close to the two chapels, and thankfully that chapel over there, it's on the southern side, is having some restoration work done. That section there is that of the great and the good, but this whole section around this chapel, it's just absolutely full of history. I don't come here far enough. I think I've only been over this cemetery twice in the whole of this particular year, probably because it's the furthest away from where I live, and I tend to pop in Grange to Sunderland Cemetery or Bishop Wearmouth. So for today's video I'm just going to have a look around and show you a few headstones, or if I see anything interesting. Now this one is a fine memorial to lots of members of the Tuckerman family. So, in loving memory of Fanny James Tuckerman, the beloved wife of John Tuckerman, who died August the 21st, 1901, and she was aged 38 years. Blessed are the pure in heart. Also, John Hook Tuckerman, he was her husband. He lived to 1913, age 50. Now, if we go down here, now remember this, when she died she was 38 years old, right? Now, here's a list of children who died. Edith in 1887, 3 months. Robert Henry, 1894, 1 year, 8 months. Percy, 1895, 14 months. Harry Harvey, 1895, 7 months. Robert Williams, 1896, 7 weeks. Georgina, 1899, 1 year, and Jessie, 1901, 2 weeks. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But then also Ernest Hearn Tuckerman, he died March the 24th, 1906, and he was only 17. So what's that? It's like 8 children. I think there was at least one who survived, 1 or 2 who survived to adulthood, and I'll tell you about what happened to them after that. Now, if you look at the dates, Fanny died August the 21st, 1901, aged 38 years. And Jessie died August the 27th, 1901. So what had happened was Fanny gave birth to Jessie. She died, and then the week later, young Jessie died. So, tragedy for Mr. Tuckerman. That's just a brother of Fanny who died. Now, what makes this headstone even more sad is the fact that John, he was an undertaker, popular undertaker in Monk Wearmouth, so he would have had to prepare all his children for burial, which was standard practice. If you were an undertaker, you looked after your own children, and at least one of his sons took over the business when John had died and carried it on in, I think it was in Dundas Street. There's probably lots of people who've got ancestors or grandparents, great-grandparents whose deceased relatives were taken care of by the Tuckerman family. I think John was also involved with the early days of Sunderland Football Club. I think it was a guardian of the Monk Wearmouth Poor House as well, from memory. It's ages since I wrote about them, but just shows one particular family. And remember, John wasn't from like the poorest members of society of Monk Wearmouth, but just there's one last look. All those infants sadly passed away. Now this is for members of the Irwin family. So there's Thomas Robinson. He was the father. He was a native of Dudley. Until the day break and the shadows flee away. They lived down in Ashmore Street in Ashbrook, and he was involved in various different businesses. But there's his son, George Dealey Irwin. Now, this is Annie Louisa Irwin, who is buried here, their much-loved daughter, who died September 1890, I think it was 1893. She was just, I think that's 33 years, and she's at rest. Now, Annie was a talented artist who had a studio She was renowned for her flowers. She had exhibitions in the town. She had work at the Royal Academy. But she'd been ailing for some time, and in that September she was going to Newcastle to see a doctor, but she never turned up. She was seen the following day in, I think, the High Street in Sunderland. But then about a week later, her body was found at one of the big ponds over near the railway station over between Bolton and Clevedon. And the inquest was held, and it was just simply found drowned. They didn't really go into the circumstances surrounding the death, whether she took her own life or whether she was just so ill and she'd collapsed and fallen into the pond and so on. And that's the reason why it's just got who died September, because they didn't know which particular date she actually died, because it was about a week. I've written a story about her on Facebook. I think it's called An Exhibition. The exhibition of a lady and so on. As you can see, there's the North Chapel there and the Southern Chapel there. Some fine memorials in this section. One day I'll probably do a video just about some of the people. You should probably recognise some of the surnames if you know your shipyards and shipbuilding and so on. Where I'm going is going to go down here to one of these older sections. You could do loads of videos just on this section alone. That's something rare in here. That's a burial vault. I think this is probably the only one in Mere Knolls, because I can't think of any others. So in there, that's where the bodies were deposited. It's probably gone down a few feet underneath, and the bodies would be placed on shelves till it was full. It's normally overgrown during most of the year, but the vegetation's died down a little bit over here. Hopefully it isn't too noisy, busy with people walking through. Oops, I've slipped on the bloody mud there. Don't worry, I'm alright. I'm going to go into that little bit in a moment. There's just when I walked up here, there was two headstones which might be of interest to people. I think it was around here. And this is for Anne Milner Pringle, aged 9 years, and Margaret Milner Pringle, aged 7 years, who lost their lives in the Victoria Hall catastrophe June the 16th, 1883. The family had also lost a son, Thomas, in 1876, who was 4 years, Ralph in 1881, aged 4 months. So they already lost 2 children before that tragedy that happened. I'm going to go down here, then I'll cut into that massive headstones over there. Look, this is just, and here's another memorial for a child of the Victoria Hall disaster. It's a shame it's left fallen down like this, and that's William, the beloved son of Thomas and Peary, who lost his life at the Victoria Hall disaster June the 16th. So most people probably know about that disaster. 182 children were killed opposite Mowbray Park in the Victoria Hall when there was like a crush. This is one. Now look at this. We did find out the name of this particular person here. Now look at that. It's like porcelain or something. Sacred to the memory of William, who was born at sea at the Cape of Good Hope on a homeward passage. I think Cape of Good Hope, that's the tip of South Africa, isn't it? And they were travelling from China to England, and there's a little epitaph at the bottom which I can't get down to see that. But if you notice, it's survived all this time, and it's actually made of wood. the exterior, but in Friends of Sunderland Cemetery's history Facebook group, somebody did actually identify the name of that particular chart. I can't remember because it was a couple of years ago, but that poor woman who was pregnant at sea coming all the way from China to England. There's another headstone which has got Minton tiles on, which I've never ever seen before. And there's another loving memory of Charles Foster, beloved son of Robert T and Hannah Dodds, who lost his life in the Victoria Hall calamity. Most of the victims were buried at the Bishop Wearmouth Cemetery. I think it was about probably 80, 90, but again there was a load were buried over here and down at Sunderland Cemetery. There was one I saw on the way up, which I've written about before, and somebody read the story and recognised them as their ancestor, and they wanted to know where it was, so they came and visited, and so they left some flowers. Now this, it's a sturdy little thing, and erected in memory of William Fenton, mariner who died December the 23rd, 1861, aged 57 years. But look at that epitaph. Be ye also ready, for you know not what an hour may bring forth. And that's also his wife, Anne Fenton. Bit of memento mori there, remembering the reader, you must die. Now, thanks to the person who commented, I knew he was from Scotland, but they said he was from Dunbar. There was about 2 separate Fenton families living over Monk Wearmouth in that era. So a lot of people from Monk Wearmouth will either come from William's family or the other one. Now let's have a look up here. It's much nicer on a summer day over here. You get great views when there's like fields of wheat over there towards Whitburn, which is... Now, this cemetery was built to sort of replace the use of St Peter's Churchyard in Monk Wearmouth, but at the time people always said it was the Monk Wearmouth Parish Church. So it covered Roker, Fulwell, Monk Wearmouth Shore, but this is 2.5 miles from the old church. Now, when this opened in 1856, there wasn't much at Fulwell, it was a hamlet, and there wasn't much at Roker either. So this was literally in the middle of nowhere, and it was bought because, like most of the cemeteries, the land would be cheaper out here rather than closer to town. Where do we start? Look at all them. It wasn't just for people who were from Monk Wearmouth in that area, because obviously people from here, Roker that way, might have moved across to Bishop Wearmouth and Sunderland and had connections to here. So I'm just going to have a little look, see if there's anything that stands out. Like, look at the size of that stone. He is not lost but gone before, has crossed the river, reached the shore, and from the eternal heights looks o'er, and brokers to heaven. There is one over here which has, I think the writing's upside down on the back. One of these ones. If I can find it. As I said, I don't come here that often. I visited here quite a bit during like the the COVID era and write a few stories on people. I'm glad I found this one. I wrote a story about this last week, but I never knew there was a headstone. This is Eliza Pyle, wife of James Pyle of Monk Wearmouth, who died Monday, June the 7th, 1880, aged 61 years. Thy will be done. There's a really sad story behind this one, and that's rare that you actually get a day where they actually specify the day. Eliza sadly took her own life by poison. She was under the impression that they were going to take her away at the asylum and kept saying they're coming to take me away and son, but she sadly died. Her husband was a cow keeper. There's James there. Now, he lived on until I think it's 1892. He was a good age, 75 years. He was a butcher as well. But I can't remember the year, but between those two, his death and his wife's death, in 1 week, his son and his daughter both killed themselves. One on the Monday, one on the Wednesday. But each one didn't know the other one had taken their life. So it was just a pure and horrible, sad coincidence. So if you go on the top of Facebook and just search cowkeeper, you'll probably come up with a story about that. But I didn't know there was a headstone. So it was worth a visit coming for that. Which I only redid the story a couple of days ago. But this area is so large. It's getting quite dark. It's supposed to rain about 4 o'clock, so hopefully it didn't. It's quite packed with headstones, this particular area. It's a nightmare if you're trying to find anybody, because look, it's on like a hill as well. It's on the slope. It's always overgrown most of the year, this area. Probably because it's difficult to get lawnmowers in and stuff. But it goes down towards, is it Cutthroat Dean? Have a quick look over here. It's getting rather dark. There's some good Scottish names there. Margaret Stewart and Alexander Leith. See there used to be a separation between Monk Wearmouth and Monk Wearmouth Shaw. Monk Wearmouth Shaw was the area along from St Peter's, along like Wearmouth Bridge, whereas Monk Wearmouth was a bit further up towards like Roker Avenue. I don't think I've ever seen this one before. It's quite a distinct one. Robert Brough. That one I don't know anything about him. And then look at this, John Elric, minister of Dundas Street Independent Chapel, who died December the 10th, 1868, in the 59th year of his age and the 30th of his ministry. Dundas Street in Monk Wearmouth. It had its own graveyard as well, which I've done a short video on before. Right, I think it is going to start spitting on, so I'm going to bring this video to a close, because it's reaching the end of where it's split. So I may, if it doesn't start raining, I might do a second part to this one, because there is so much stuff here. So anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like if you wish to, and click on the subscribe if you want to. Thank you very much.